All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome to Ritual Motions Guild. I'm your host today, Crystal Mills, and as you can see on your screen, we have a pretty amazing group of people here, all from FITGMR. We're going to be jumping into what FITGMR is, kind of the ties between health and gaming, talk a little bit about their app, and then maybe hint at a little bit of some of the content that you're going to see from FITGMR here on Guild in the future. So I'm not going to talk too much. We're going to get through introductions. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll just call out each person one by one and put you on the spot and let you introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into questions. Welcome, everyone. This is going to be awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Let's see. Let me look at what the way everything is situated on my screen. Kristin, do you want to start?
Sure. I am a co-founder and the CEO of FITGMR.
I like that.
I'm happy to talk more. My background is in finance and business and yoga and herbal medicine. And I joined FITGMR as a founder at the end of 2020 when my husband, Mike, and I met with Jack Etienne, where Mike had been working for the last few years from Cloud9, and decided that all of the success that he was having there, we should bring to the world of gamers through mobile technology. So
awesome. All right, Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I'm under the FITGMR as well as the Kristin Anderson banner, as you see below. My name is Mike. I have been working with Cloud9 for it's the 3-year anniversary coming up this month. So we've been doing physical training, strength and conditioning type stuff with a number of different teams. We started with League of Legends, and we are still working with that group in person anywhere from 4 to 6 days a week, depending on this super weekends. You know, we had it I saw Landon's eyebrow perk up there. We were 3-0 this weekend, and it was great to have those wins. But so we didn't meet this weekend, but we'll be back on this coming week. I have a background in exercise science. I ran the physical education department at Pepperdine University here in Malibu, where we live, and I own and operate a gym that has been open running on 13 years now. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's see, Landon, your turn.
Oh, there we go. Found the mute button. I just got to pop up. There we go. Yeah, so I'm Landon. I'm the resident gamer. I eat, sleep, and breathe video games, particularly League of Legends, as Mike just hinted with my eyebrow raising, watching. I was traveling all weekend, and between flights yesterday, I was trying to watch like 5 minutes of Cloud9 here, and then I'd be on the tarmac. I'd try and sneak another 5 minutes in there. But outside of that, professionally speaking, I suppose, I work with FITGMR in mental conditioning and mental performance. So really trying to help gamers understand what goes into development, into training, into competition. How do you make sure that all the time that you put into training actually shows up and comes out when it matters, when you're sitting on stage? Really just making sure that you are maximizing your brain's potential and that you can harness those resources, as well as manage things like emotions, because tilt obviously is one of the big things, or burnout, or mental fatigue, or mental effort, or communication, team dynamics, leadership. Anything along that spectrum is really where I come in to help with, because at the end of the day, esports is a cognitive domain. So your brain has to be functioning at full capacity in order to produce what you want it to do. And so that's what I do with FITGMR. My background is in psychology, a master's in sport and performance psychology. And so going through that process, I decided that the best place to bring that is definitely back to esports, because between all of us, I don't care that much about traditional sports. I really wanted to get into esports. That was where the primary focus was. And then there was a big other kind of motivator behind that, is the fact that as I was coming through my teen years, I struggled with a lot of things in terms of health and wellness. So I was morbidly obese at one point. I had severe social anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So not only am I interested in the performance aspects of esports, but also about making sure that we change the way the next generation of gamers approaches gaming.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you. All right. Up next, Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter Ferko, and I'm in charge of yoga and meditation at FITGMR. And everything that Landon just said, I develop practices to try to make happen so that gamers can figure out how to take a pause from being on the console or at the keyboard and to shift their mind, shift gears, back up, get resiliency so that when they're ready to game, they're starting from a baseline of focus and calm and readiness. So that's all on the meditation side. And then on the yoga side, it's almost exactly the same because yoga is really a meditation in motion. You know, for somebody who really needs something to focus on, yoga can be a way that you get your mind to calm down by embodying it. So we do a practice that is very much easy for anybody to do. So it doesn't require any kind of extra flexibility or any really knowledge at all. It's a very simple practice that's more of a mindfulness practice. And by doing it, you also are in a kind of a prehabilitation state. So there's less chance of injury because you're working your body in this very mindful way.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's it's one of the things that I struggle with is having that good positive like mindset when you're first jumping into the game.
Yeah, totally. And I've been teaching yoga for 20 years, teaching teachers, teaching people who want to be teachers, and teaching people who are already teachers who want to go even further. So
awesome.
Something I love to bring into the gaming community.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. All right. And then last up is Matt.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I'm head of nutrition at FITGMR. A little bit about my background. I owned and operated gyms in LA and New Jersey. I've been a coach in various sports for over the last 20 years. I've come from this endurance background and a real high intensity type gym background in terms of coaching. I'm also a former United States Marine and a pilot.
Awesome. All right. So everyone has their own like specialties and backgrounds. It's an amazing mix. So because of that, like I have a list of questions. I don't have them directed toward any specific person. So super casual. I'll ask the questions and whoever wants to jump in, just feel free to do so. All right. Starting off, can someone tell me what the 5 pillars of health are and how can they help improve a player's performance?
I can tackle that one.
Okay.
The 5 pillars of health are physical maintenance, mental conditioning, nutrition, sleep, and lifestyle. And they were developed by our chief science officer in 2017 on behalf of someone who was sponsoring professional esports teams and streamers who asked him, how can you, who our chief science officer's name is Dr. Holden McRae. He ran the Pepperdine Sports Medicine Department for about 30 years. He also happened to be Mike's professor in the early 90s. And he spent 9 months researching all of the different games, different athletes, interviewing retired athletes, just recreational gamers. And you know, in 2017, this was kind of a novel thing. And he said, you know, really what these athletes need to focus on is their physical maintenance, meaning how they maintain their physical body in order to prevent things like diabetes, obesity, the different conditions that arise that require physical therapy from sitting for long periods of time. Mental conditioning, because it is such a cognitive sport, how to achieve optimal brain performance and what techniques can be used to help with communication and leadership, the things that Landon focuses on, as well as recognizing that the brain in itself is a muscle that when it's overused, it taxes out. And so how can we find relaxation for the brain? Sleep, you know, back in the day, what his observation was is that people aren't really sleeping so much because they love what they do and they're staying up all night. And this really has an impact on so much of our humanity that sleep is something that these athletes really need to focus on more so than maybe in traditional sport. Nutrition, again, hones in on just what are people eating when they're gaming. If they don't want to go somewhere, or they don't have time to prepare meals, what are they grabbing for? Sugar, caffeine. How can we dial in nutrition in a way that serves optimal cognitive performance and lifestyle? So recognizing that burnout is such a a big risk in this industry, and how for anyone who just dives headlong into something and really doesn't step back from their passion to pursue other things, that's kind of the path that you're on. And so lifestyle is that, okay, how can we challenge ourselves to do something else? How can we step away from the keyboard and then come back at it with a fresher perspective and be better? Sometimes just spending an extra 2 hours isn't what we need. It's actually spending 20 minutes away. And
that was one of the things about what Holden found in his research that really was amazing to me, that in a given day, looking at how well you've eaten, how well you've slept, whether you've taken a break, those kinds of things are more indicative of how well you'll play than anything else.
And I think, just to Peter's point, it was the connection that he really highlighted, and that is central to FITGMR, is what we call this web of interconnected web of the 5 pillars, and that you can't just focus on one because every one affects the others. And so things like, depression and anxiety, you don't sleep well, you don't feel well, you don't have maybe a positive outlook, you don't feel like exercising. And these things can downward spiral, or they can upward spiral if you are focusing on all of them. So that was a long-winded answer, but that's the 5 pillars of health.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, I feel like it's something that we've discussed on Guild and various other sessions, talking a little bit about, as a gamer, sometimes we recognize these bad patterns that we are reaching for things like sugar and the caffeine, and our diets are not great. We're not getting enough sleep. We're not taking the breaks that we need. It's nice to find more tools that are helping people kind of keep that more in the forefront of their minds, because it's something that's so easily neglected, which comes to my next point. You've developed the FITGMR app. Can you or anyone talk a little bit more about what the app provides to players?
Yeah, I'll tackle part of that. The app really, in its inception, was to provide a way that gamers, that people could keep track of that web of interconnectedness, right? So on a daily basis, one can wake up and plug in not just when they went to bed, but when they went to sleep, when they woke up, and essentially, charting how many hours am I spending in a relaxed, state of being. What some of the sleep professionals have found is that you don't necessarily have to be one of those types of people that go to bed at 10:30 and wake up at 8, right? Are you getting, for different people, right, 8 hours of really quality sleep? And if you tend to be a late riser and staying up late, like, that's an important thing to, you're just getting in those hours. From a nutrition perspective, there's a lot of things to tackle in the nutritional space, but this idea that we start really with sugar as the focus. How many grams of sugar are you getting in a given day, right? So we help teach people how to check food labels for that added sugar, that hidden sugar that happens to be in things like packaged and processed foods. Moving to the physical maintenance side of thing, like, not just are you getting in a certain amount of high heart rate, higher intensity work, it could be weights, it could be dancing, it could, within the app we have, dozens of different icons that represent all of these different ways to become physically fit, to increase your heart rate, to use your muscles, and this balance of being inside versus outside, right? Where we try and set this level of get outside for an hour. Like, that's our upper limit. Like, make sure you get outside for, even if it's between a scrim or after a VOD review, or instead of just going to the bathroom and getting a quick bite to eat, like, take that outside. Get some vitamin D, right? Walk around a little bit. Allow the mind to change perspective so that you can come back at the game. And then in a lot of cases, professionals, like, you can come back at your job and support your teammates in a way that works. This metric system, the system of just keeping track of what you do throughout the day, is supported by the content that we provide, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we host a 20 to 25 minute workout where all you have to do is show up, hit the play button, and do what we say and what we're teaching you to do. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's alternative content to that with some yoga on Tuesdays, and Landon then presents some mental conditioning points of focus on Thursdays. And then on the weekend, we have content that's related to nutrition, sleep, and our what we call Go Outside and Play series that just kind of, I would say, reminds people that they do have other interests. And if you focus solely on one single thing, then you get good at only one single thing, but then you're at risk of burnout and kind of losing your way. So anyone have anything to add? Landon, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll stack on that a little bit. And when you think about the app, it's like, why did Riot Games release the Eternals? Why does things like Mobalytics exist? And there's really two key components of why those types of things exist. And one is it's accountability, and two, it's awareness, right? And that's the only way that you develop as a person, whether it's in game or out of game, is if you have those two components. There is, you have a system that keeps you accountable to what you need to do, and you have also a system that helps you be aware. And so like the Eternals, Mobalytics, U.GG, whatever it might be, these are systems that help you be aware of what your stats are and how to be accountable to those stats, what your farming is, your CSing, your award scores, whatever it might be. Much like that, that's kind of what the FITGMR app fills in, is it helps you be aware of what you are and aren't doing, and then creates a system of accountability that keeps you coming back so that you can continue on that process, that you stick on it for a long period of time. Because without accountability or awareness, it's very hard to build those habits. And without those habits, then you kind of continue to spiral downwards more and more and more. And so with everything that Mike just said, that's also kind of what the FITGMR app does, is it helps to create those types of things, like all of these in-game stat trackers. This also creates the accountability and the awareness for the 5 pillars that you can, it makes that kind of process a little bit easier. And then also, I know for my own personal journey, when I was trying to figure out all of this stuff, man, that was overwhelming. Like, it was so hard to figure out, like, where do I go to figure out what I'm supposed to eat? How do I work out? Am I going to hurt myself? Like, yeah, that was mega overwhelming. And so this also, not only does it create the accountability and awareness, but it also reduces the complexity or like that overwhelming feel, so that you don't have to wonder if, like, is this right? Where do I do this? How do I do this? It's just, it's a one-stop shop so that we can kind of package that all together.
That's definitely, for me, the app definitely has that accountability and that habit tracking. And that is kind of everything, keeping it really simple and allowing me to kind of every day have this reminder of, oh my gosh, I probably should check to see why I'm feeling a certain way and what it is that I did yesterday that maybe makes me feel that way today. And having that system it creates this habit of me constantly looking to see how much water I had today, or how much added sugar that I've been eating, or fast food. And it's not like we have to always be perfect. One of the things that it's kind of a habit, it's a problem of mine actually, is creating everything. I have to make it fun. And I'm always trying to come up with games. And so when I'm doing, like, for example, the added sugar challenge, which is basically trying to keep your sugars every day under 24 grams of sugar. And I do this with my kids at home, and being able to track that is just really everything. But creating fun games and systems that are easy to use, and I think that's what it's all about. It can't be complex. It has to be simple.
Yeah, I was going to add to that the app takes about 2 minutes of entering data, and then it gives you this ongoing inspiration, because you get to see how you're improving, because there's a score that's built out of all the activities that you do, and that score rises or falls based on your consistency and some other factors.
That's exactly what I need.
I'm just going to round that out with, we give you the tools, so that if we're saying this is what is optimal, we're also saying here's the tool to do it, so that you aren't left stranded. And the other thing I'd say is that everything within our app is designed purely from a cognitive performance perspective. Our nutrition is what we recommend from years and years of experience, study of what how the nutrition in the food that your brain needs to perform at its optimal level. And the other thing is that everything that's in the app are things that we've been doing with, a pro sports team who's done very well over the last few years. So they are tried and tested. And it really, the intention from the get-go was, how can we take what's working here and share it with everybody else? And that's really what the app does. It checks all those boxes.
Awesome. Yeah, I just downloaded it too, so I'm curious. I'm excited to jump in and check it out.
I'll add that while any individual can download the app and use it on their own, it's also intended to be used with teams. So there's a coach's dashboard that a coach or manager can basically be behind the scenes, checking with their players to see how things are going, ranging from all of those 5 pillars to checking in with the after action reports that the athletes are providing with respect to the things that they're entering that specifically relate to how was their gameplay on a given day. So you can use it as an individual. As a parent, you can suggest and use it and track things with your children. Any type of team, middle school, high school, collegiate, professional team can use it as an entire team.
Awesome. Yeah, that's such a cool resource. So I have it downloaded on my iPhone, but is it also available for Android as well? All right. See, there you go, chat. Go download it. All right. Let's see. So you've mentioned a little bit about being the performance team for Cloud9. So I want to kind of get into that a little bit. Can someone talk a little bit about how I know you've talked about the 5 pillars and how that kind of interacts with the way that you're successful, not only in game, but outside of game. But I'm kind of assuming that maybe it's a little bit more, I don't know, intense when it comes to professional players because they're on such a strict schedule and regimen anyway, versus casual gamers who can kind of just jump in and out whenever they want to. So how do you help professional players maintain healthy habits? And can you talk about some of the challenges that might come from that?
All right. Well, one of the great things about working with a professional organization is that they have a structure, and that structure dictates when the scrim starts, when lunch is, when the VOD reviews happen, when the team meetings happen, when they go over to Riot for COVID testing for the next day's, content shoot or what have you. So it's really interesting that the 0.001% of gamers in the world actually have this advantage towards having time on their side. And for the past, number of years, I've been at the Cloud9 gym ready to go for the 10 a.m. workout. And so they show up, we do our thing, we stretch, we have a little ending, and then they go on to eat breakfast and go right into their day. And it's worked great. What I recognize as a strength and conditioning specialist is this idea that their primary reason that they are in their career is to win games for Cloud9 and move, towards world championships. And for that reason, it's not up to me to set goals for them that are, you have to be able to have a 315-pound deadlift or run a mile in 6 minutes, or however, these are physical feats that they are chasing towards. But it's not my job to set those kind of goals in place. My job is to prepare them for being at the keyboard, sitting in a nice, strong position, not tiring out in the best of 5 match. So I set them up for success in the way that an esport athlete needs to be set up for success. And it really is the basis of, what does the cognitive performer need? It's not what do I want them to achieve as a strength and conditioning coach, right? The idea of being able to push a heavy sled or to do 5 or 6 pull-ups, everyone in the Cloud9 gym essentially is on their own journey, but they're doing it as a team. And they're moving forward in terms of their, not just their physical health, but their teamwork, their communication. So that's from the professional side of things.
I was just going to add, and I have the benefit of spending a lot of time with Mike. So I hear a lot of the feedback, and it's part of what has inspired me to be a part of this. But a couple of, I think, the challenges that potentially can come up are, one, you're working with a group of people who maybe, esport athletes at professional teams haven't spent a lot of time in their lives out doing physical activity because they've been focusing on their sport, which has been behind the keyboard. And so here you are working with a whole new group of people who, have never been on a rower and don't know how this works. And I think that's one thing that we've really tried to bring into our app, and something that Jack Etienne has said of Mike publicly is, Mike has a way of working with people wherever they're at. And our app is really designed for beginners. So there's a lengthy getting started section that is really designed to, you don't have to know how to do any of this when you pick up our app. We are going to take you through it, and we're going to teach you how to do things safely and in every domain, whether it's nutrition or sleep or physical exercise or Landon's specialty, and what he's teaching. And so that's one thing, is I think just starting with beginners can be a challenge. It can be intimidating, and making sure that people feel comfortable tackling health and wellness, which there's almost too much information out there, and giving them something that has been tried and tested and is scientifically validated. And then the other thing is that if you don't have an environment around you that is supportive of what you're trying to do, it's really difficult. And I think that's one thing that's made a real difference with Cloud9, is that from Jack down through every level of coaches, managers, etc., there's this spirit of, this is something that we know makes us better. And the athletes may not know it when they first start, but very soon after they know it, because they've experienced it and they feel it. And so, I'd say one challenge is not necessarily having that support, because without it, it's really hard to carve out the time and to make it a priority.
Awesome. All right.
Maybe Matt, Landon, or Peter can also add in a little bit. I've worked a lot with Cloud9 in person, but we've also spent, essentially last summer and fall working with the Valorant and Overwatch teams in all of our different pillars remotely.
Yeah, I was going to add to that you mentioned machines and rowing and stuff like that. When we worked with those teams, there was no equipment involved at all. We were basically, on a Zoom call with them and on Discord, and just doing whatever they could do, still on their headphones, stepping away from the computer. And it was really exciting to see how much they got and how quickly they were able to incorporate things like the quick drills that we do, where you stand up for a minute from your keyboard and do something. Mel from Valorant White incorporates the breathing technique of a very simple sun salutation before she sits down to game, and on and on. These things are like not hard to learn and really easy to apply.
Oh, that's a great point, Peter. That the fact that there's these ancillary or these additional components to coaching the professional gamers, is that they're just besides, beyond just the like for fitness, we have these functional movements that we run them through a workout, and we always use functional movements that will relay, to different parts of their life. If they leave the team, let's say they leave Cloud9, they go someplace else, at least they've learned these functional movements, so they'll be able to sit properly with a rigid neutral spine in a chair for gaming, or they'll be able to lift up something heavy and not be injured. And additionally, I was just thinking when Peter said that, was for the nutrition, what's interesting is you don't really think about nutrition unless you're me, and you don't think about nutrition on a constant basis. And one thing that we really talked a lot about was travel nutrition. I mean, travel nutrition is such a, oh yeah, that's right, I've got to create something healthy, not only while I'm at my hotel, but what about when I'm on an 8-hour plane flight to Europe? What about going to the airport? What am I going to find when I'm in a foreign country? So there's this whole other aspect of training the professional athletes that I found quite enjoyable. It reminded me of my days back when I used to train and coach triathletes. They were like newbies trying to get their first Ironman completed. And that race day nutrition was just kind of one of those, oh, wow, I never thought about that, but it's really important.
I'll tack one more thing. I know we're a little bit tight on time here, so I'll squeeze this in real quick, as fast as I possibly can. One of the things that is kind of unique, well, maybe not unique to esports, but is very interesting. I think a lot of people tend to gloss over this. Is that, and this is a particularly interesting thing to me, is that every game has its own culture. Overwatch has its culture. League of Legends has its culture. Dota has its culture. Valorant has its culture. When you're thinking about the whole sports psychology, the mental performance, mental conditioning things, it is crucial that you consider the cultures of the games, because everybody has a different starting point. They have a different process in place. They have a different dynamic. And if you try to, like force them into a specific culture when they've developed in this one, I mean, you might want to get them to that eventually, but you have to start where they're at. And so understanding that esports isn't esports as one broad category, but there is nuances and there's cultures, there's dynamics, there's needs that each game faces just because of the age of it, the development of it, where it started, how it's going, what do the pros, the streamers kind of pass down to the general public. Every game has its own culture, and that's something that's very challenging at times because you have the same kind of content that you want to deliver, but you have to tailor it slightly based on, are you talking to an Overwatch team? Are you talking to a Call of Duty team? Are you talking to a League team? And that, like I said, poses its own set of problems, but it's a very, very fun problem because you get to learn a lot about the games.
Esports is always way more complex than people think.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, we are going over time. I do want to ask a question that has been typed into chat, and then after that, we'll get ready to move into networking. But in the Q&A, it was asked, it seems like there are a lot of products suddenly being pitched to esports players and gamers. Some of them are also apps. What is different about FITGMR?
Yeah.
I want to answer it from one pillar. I want to separate all the pillars and answer each one, but I know it's probably
I'll jump on the broad before we answer the specifics then. It's kind of like what I mentioned earlier, is that when I was going through my journey, there was so much complexity to everything. Like, how do I do all these things that I know I need to do? It's unbelievably overwhelming. I mean, you can almost get an entire bachelor's degree while you're trying to learn all these things because of how many different topics you have to go through, how much information you have to learn. And the thing that makes this a little bit different is it condenses all of the, when you think of traditional health and wellness or fitness apps or tracking apps, it condenses all of those apps into one and then reduces the complexity, because there's nothing that can kill development or progress or growth or change faster than the paralysis of too much to consume. And so the thing that kind of separates this from a lot of things is it condenses it into one point that's easy to digest, it's easy to follow, it allows you to steal my words from earlier, allows you to have that accountability and awareness all in one point. And then from that you can see the growth happening, because you're not paralyzed by the bachelor's degree of information that you have to learn over a 4-year period. It reduces that, and that's what makes it a little bit different.
And I'm just going to tack on one quick thing to that, which I think is interesting in the question, that it's, things that are being pitched to esports players and gamers. And I think what's really unique about us is that we came from esports players and gamers and are bringing it out. We aren't necessarily pitching it to, but everything that we've been doing just sort of happened. And it's from, the spirit of wanting to share it that I think differentiates us.
Perfect. All right. With that being said, everyone needs to go download the app if you haven't already. Make sure you check out every single bio that's underneath the video. If you scroll down, you can see social media links, and check everyone out here on the team of FITGMR. My God, my brain just went completely blank in the middle of that. It's a Monday. But yeah, with that being said, does anyone else have anything that they'd like to add before we move into networking? All right.
I would add that starting next week, I'm going to be doing Mindful Mondays at this very time. So we'll do a short meditation every Monday for the next month.
Awesome. Yes. Everyone in chat, make sure to keep an eye out. If you need help finding any of the upcoming sessions, all of it's available at the top of your screen. Just go to watch. You can check out all of the live and upcoming sessions, as well as the sessions that are on demand, which will include this one as soon as we go offline. So keep that in mind. So yeah, I think we're ready to move into networking. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. If you're leaving us, but if not, once we move into networking, you should see a button. You can click it, jump in, start mingling. You can activate your camera and your microphone and join in on the conversation. So, yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.